When the sorcerer Zagan decides to participate in an auction selling the goods of the now-dead archdemon Marcosius, he expects to find items of untold power. What he finds instead is a rare white-haired slave elf named Nephilia, and he immediately spends all his money to purchase her, much to the bewilderment of those around him. However, the secret reason behind Zagan's investment was that he had actually fallen in love with her at first sight. Unfortunately, Zagan has a problem. He is socially inept and has no idea how to express his true feelings, leading to many misunderstandings between him and his new companion. But slowly, the two begin to understand each other, and love begins to bloom. There is a man who has taken residence in the forest, and everyone seems to be scared of him. He is a sorcerer, and no one seems to go near his territory, which houses a scary and terrifying castle. This man is a sorcerer, and his name is Zagan. He currently has a problem that needs a solution. Zagan sits on his throne, and standing in front of him is an elven lady. The elven lady gently opens her mouth to ask him how he plans to kill her. This question sounds strange to Zagan, and at the same time, it sounds accusatory. It turns out that he has no plan whatsoever to terminate the lady. In fact, he likes her, but doesn't even know how to talk to her. Bro is a sorcerer, but his biggest problem is how to talk to a woman. What a shame. To know how this came to be, we need to go back to the day before. A sorcerer is seen harassing a girl in the woods, and this place seems to be around Zagan's territory. The sorcerer is a master at flaying, and he plans to flay the girl and use her for whatever creepy magic he plans to do. He makes fun of the girl and is on the verge of getting what he wants when he is suddenly grabbed from behind by Zagan. Zagan complains that he is actually trying to sleep, but the guy has ruined it for him. This is when it dawns on the sorcerer that he has wandered into Zagan's territory. The sorcerer starts to beg, appealing to Zagan that he promises to give him the fruit of his research if he just lets him go. Zagan lets the guy know that he is not interested in any magic that concerns flaying people. After saying this, Zagan crushes the guy's head, leaving the liquid splashing all over the girl. The girl sees this and faints. This is when it dawns on Zagan that he might have actually succeeded in traumatizing the girl. He decides to change things up a bit. He makes the sorcerer's head go back to the way it was, and removes the body fluid from the girl's body so that when she wakes up, she will believe that everything that happened was nothing but a dream. Zagan then notices that the girl is wearing a cross on her neck, which means that she is affiliated with the church. The church is against sorcerers, and Zagan is probably going to get blamed for the attack even though he was the one who saved the girl. Zagan doesn't really care about this though, and decides to send the girl to where people can see her and rescue her. He activates his translocation spell, but doesn't work and starts to wonder what might be interfering with his magic. He has protective fields all over his territory, but he knows one person who is capable of messing with his magic. This sorcerer is none other than Barbatos. Barbatos appears right behind Zagan, and Zagan tells him to stop messing with his magic. Barbatos asks him what he is up to, and he lets him know that he is dealing with a creep who wants to sacrifice a lady. Barbatos says he should have left the guy to do his thing, because this is what sorcerers are known for. Barbatos goes near the girl to realize that she has a decent amount of mana flowing inside of her. He asks Zagan if he plans to sacrifice the girl, but he says no. Sacrificial magic is not his thing, he says. Zagan then activates his translocation spell, finally sending the girl to where people can find her. Once this is done, Zagan starts going back to his castle, telling Barbatos that he needs to sleep. Barbatos then gets Zagan's attention by telling him that there is an interesting piece of news. It turns out that one of the archdemons, Marcosius, is dead. There are 13 archdemons, and they are considered the pinnacle of sorcery. They are the authority when it comes to sorcery, and they rule over low sorcerers. Marcosius has been around for over a millennium, and he has finally passed away. It turns out that there is going to be an auction at his territory in Keanoides. Barbatos tells Zagan that he finally has the opportunity to get what he has always wanted, and this is an archdemon's legacy. This sounds interesting to Zagan, and he decides to follow Barbatos to the auction. As they walk through the town, Zagan realizes that guards are more than usual. Barbatos tells him that this is because kidnappings have gone up, because sorcerers are using people for experiments. Zagan starts to wonder what they need people for. He thinks to himself that they might actually need the power to summon an actual demon. However, he doesn't think this is possible because it is nothing but a fairy tale. Shortly afterward, the two make it to the location where the auction is taking place. Once they have taken their seats, Barbatos points out the celebrities that they have in the house. There is Kimaris, who is known as the Black Blade. Gremory, who is known as the Enchantress, is also present. Also, there is Valifor, who is the Apparition. Barbatos tells Zagan that this trio is strong, and they are actually contenders for the void that has been left behind by Marcosius. Zagan wants to know who is actually responsible for picking the 13th archdemon, and Barbados lets him know that the other 12 are going to debate over it. Moments later, the host calls the attention of everyone present and welcomes them to the auction. He shows them the merchandise that was in possession of the dead archdemon. The merchandise appears to be a person, but the person is covered from head to toe. The cloth covering the merchandise is taken off, and it turns out to be an elf from the distant Norden Holy Land. Seeing this immediately gets Zagan's attention, and he has his eyes fixated on the elf. The auctioneer continues by telling those who are present the attributes of an elf and how important they are. They are considered to be closer to the divine being than humans. He is about to start the bid at 10,000 when Zagan makes a ridiculous bid of 1 million from the stands. Zagan is ready to pay 1 million gold for the elf, and this leaves everyone present in the arena totally speechless. Even Barbatos tries to tell his friend that it is just an elf, but Zagan is feeling something exciting brewing inside of him. As he looks at the elf, it turns out that he has fallen in love with the elven girl, and this is love at first sight. Zagan jumps to the stage to take a better look at the white-haired elf, but doesn't know what to say to her. There is a collar around her neck, and he asks the auctioneer what the collar is for. The auctioneer tells him that the collar is there to make sure that the elf remains obedient and doesn't run off. Funny enough, none of them, including the auctioneer, knows how to remove the collar from her neck. The auctioneer tells him that the elf has been preserved with magic and is in good shape. All of these don't concern Zagan. What he is concerned about is the sound the elf is going to make when he touches her. This came out in the wrongest way, and it has everyone opening their mouth in shock. After this is settled, Zagan takes her home, and this is where the problem begins. He realizes that he should have asked Barbados about what to say to the girl, but nonetheless, he has to say something at some point. He starts thinking of what to say to the girl, but everything he thinks about sounds weird and unromantic. He even thought about asking her what she thinks of the castle. Dumb, bro. So dumb. This is when the elf decides to talk, and she asks Zagan how he plans to terminate her. Zagan stands up in horror, telling the girl that he has no plan whatsoever to terminate her. This is because he needs her alive, but this only makes the elf believe that there is something worse than death that Zagan has in store for her. Zagan is weak from all the assumptions, but he sits down and starts to talk gently. He introduces himself to the elf, and also points out that he is a sorcerer. He wants to ask her for her name, but he finds it hard to do. It is as if the elf notices this, and she tells the guy her name by herself. She says her name is Nephilia, and Zagan considers this a beautiful name. Zagan asks her if she has a family name, and she says no. She suggests that Zagan call her Nephi if he finds her long name distasteful. Zagan seems to be happy with both names because he finds them beautiful. He then asks Nephi if it is normal for elves not to have family names, and she says no. Nephi claims that other elves have family names, but she doesn't because she is just a cursed girl. Nephi then stands up to tell her that he has nothing to worry about because she is a virgin. She even raises her gown to reveal her underwear just so she can prove this to Zagan. Zagan quickly closes his eyes, telling the girl that there is no need for that. Nephi is doing all of these because she believes that Zagan wants her for his experiments. Zagan tells the lady that he has no interest in experimenting on her, and she is forced to ask Zagan why he bought her. Zagan simply tells her that there is no need for her to know that. There is no way he is going to tell her that he bought her for such a ridiculous amount just because he fell in love with her. It soon dawns on Zagan that he is going to be living under the same roof with the girl, and this is the reason he needs to keep his composure. He stands up to tell Nephi that he is going to give her a room to stay, and she is free to pick whatever room she likes in the house. Nephi frustrates the guy even further by asking if he is asking her to pick the room where she is going to die. Zagan is forced to scream out again, telling the girl that she is not going to be killed. Nephi then tells Zagan that she is confused as to why he has purchased her if he has no purpose for her. Zagan then realizes why the girl has the type of mentality that she has. This is because she was sold off as a slave and probably meant to be experimented upon. She calls herself a cursed elf, but she hasn't revealed the real reason as to why this is. This makes Zagan realize that the girl is just like him. He once had nothing and was living the worst life possible. He doesn't even remember his parents, and the reason he answers to the name Zargan is because this is what he heard those around him calling him. Zargan then tells the lady that he bought her because he needs her and doesn't want her to talk anymore about dying. He wants Nephi to live for his sake, and the girl acknowledges this. He then takes Nephi further into the castle to find a room for her. He asks her if she is afraid of heights, but she says no. As they climb the stairs, she trips and is about to fall off, but Zagan catches her. He then holds her hands as they climb the stairs, causing his face to turn red from excitement. They soon get to the room where Zagan wants her to stay, but the room is in disorder. Zagan uses his destructive magic to get rid of the bones and skulls inside the room before they enter. Nephi enters the room and makes her way to the balcony, where she looks at the moon. He asks her if she likes the room, and she replies that she has no idea. She wants to stay in the room because of the outward balcony, and Zagan agrees. Nefi bows her head and thanks Zagan for the hospitality. This means a lot to him because no one has ever thanked him for anything. This long night marks the duo's cohabitation together, and we wait to see how it plays out. The following morning, Zagan is seen sitting on his throne complaining that he didn't get any sleep. It turns out that he made Nefi sleep in the throne room because the room she was supposed to sleep in was not up to standard yet. He is forced to watch over her throughout the night and even covers her with his cape. He is feeling hungry already, and he stands up to get something to eat. Later on, Nefi wakes up and she takes away the cloth that Zagan used to cover her. Zagan enters the room, and Nefi greets him like a servant will greet a master. Zagan is so outdated that he doesn't even know what he is going to reply with. He thinks of several options that he can actually reply with, but doesn't get anything in his mind. He is so disappointed in his mind that he actually cannot come up with a single greeting. They finally sit down to eat beef jerky, and Zagan uses this time to think about when he actually became a failure. He just concludes that he has been a failure at love from the start. Just then, Nefi asks him if he is eating the same meal as her, and he says yes. Zagan says yes, and starts to wonder why Nefi is asking such a question. Nefi considers herself lucky to be fed at all, but says this is the type of food that she is used to. This is when it dawns on Zagan that the food they are eating is actually plain. This is the food that is given to slaves, but Zagan doesn't see anything bad in it, because this is what he grew up eating. In fact, this is his best food ever. Aside from this beef jerky, the other thing he eats is moldy bread. Bro has refused to improve his style of living, even though he is no longer in the trenches. Zagan gets hit with a big shock when Nefi tells him that she can cook, and she suggests that they eat homemade food. Zagan has never had homemade food, and this is so shocking to him. He accepts this, and decides that it is time for them to go shopping. On their way to town, they see a wagon that can take them into town, but Zagan needs to pay for it. Bro is dead broke because he spent his entire fortune on purchasing the girl, and now he has no money, even if it is 2 coins. He immediately changes his attention and tells Nefi that it is not a bad idea for them if they walk to town. As they start walking away, he thinks about the things he can actually do that will get him money. He thinks of selling the torture equipment that he has in his castle, but he doesn't have the money to pay whoever is going to pack it. He is considering selling the castle so he can open a diner with Nefi when they hear a noise coming from behind. It turns out that the wagon that they just left is being robbed by crooks. Nefi feels weird seeing this happen, and Zagan realizes that Nefi might be feeling the trauma of being kidnapped by her captors. Zagan decides to step in and get rid of the thieves. He uses a spell to get the attention of the thieves, and 2 of them decide to come after him with the belief that he cannot create another spell quickly. The leader of the gang tries to hit Zagan with his axe, but Zagan easily blocks the attack with his bare fingers. He breaks the axe and sends the guy flying with just a flick of his finger. The thieves realize that Zagan is not just someone that they can mess with, and they quickly call on their sorcerer for help. The sorcerer shows up and talks about his disappointment that Zagan is helping others. It turns out that he has some sort of arrangement with the thieves. The sorcerer is so full of himself, confidently telling Zagan that he is going to regret crossing paths with him. The sorcerer creates a casting circle and engulfs it with fire, but Zagan easily clears out the fire. The sorcerer doesn't see anything wrong in this and tries using another spell, but finds out that he is unable to. He wonders why this is, and Zagan lets him know that he has usurped his casting circle already. The circle now belongs to Zagan, and he turns the circle against him. With one spell, he takes down the sorcerer, and the thieves run away, not wanting to know what will come next. Once they are out of the equation, Zagan tries to act cool in front of Nefi, but he just ends up messing up. The people that he just saved realize what he is trying to do, and they just laugh. They thank him for saving them, and in return, the driver of the wagon offers to pay him. He also tells Zagan that he is free to ride with them to town. Zagan opens the pouch, and he is shocked by the amount of coins that he can actually make just by helping people. However, he realizes that most people are actually afraid of him, which means he is the one they need protection from. Zagan and Nefi then join the wagon, heading to town. Nefi asks him why he saved the wagon, and he tells her that he did that to show Nefi that she has nothing to be scared of. However, he decides to try and use this as a moment to catch her eye and say something cool, but as usual, he ends up saying the wrong thing. Soon afterward, they get to town, and even though they are there for groceries, he wants her to buy other things that will excite a woman. He takes her to a store where brushes and other makeup materials are being sold. He tells her to pick anything she wants, but she suggests that Zagan pick for her. Zagan realizes that Nephi has been in captivity for so long that she doesn't know the usual trend of things. Instead of this, he decides to take her to an outfit shop. They meet the shop owner, Manuela, who is clearly not happy to see the guy because he is a sorcerer. However, she is very happy when Nephi enters the room and is told that she needs an outfit. Manuela's mood goes down again when she realizes that Nephi has a slave collar on her. Nonetheless, she takes her into the changing room to dress for her. Zagan realizes that the collar is going to be a problem but doesn't know how to take it off, and neither does the auctioneer. Moments later, Manuela presents Nephi wearing a very revealing cloth. Zagan is shocked to see this and tells Manuela that this is not the type of outfit that he wants for her. Manuela apologizes for the error, saying she was trying to style the girl according to Zagan's taste. She assumes that Zagan is going to want this type of outfit for her since she is a slave, but that is not the case. Manuela then takes her back into the house to find another outfit for her. By the time she comes back, Manuela has her putting on a maid outfit that actually looks on her. Zagan asks her if she likes it, and she replies with the usual, "Whatever you want, master" answer. Zagan then tells her to show some enthusiasm before Manuela takes her back in to give what is not right again. Nephi quickly accepts that she likes the dress and says it out loud. With the deal concluded, the two leave the shop, but Manuela flies toward Nephi, telling her that she is lucky to have a master who actually cares about her. Nephi's face turns red, and this is when she realizes Zagan actually cares about her. After this, they head to a smith's shop, and Zagan asks the man in charge if he can remove the collar that is around Nephi's neck. Nephi is surprised when she hears that Zagan is trying to remove the collar on her neck. Zagan says he is doing this because having the collar on her neck will make it look like she is still the property of the dead archdemon. The smith then tells Zagan that the collar has some sort of spell around it that makes it hard for someone like him to remove it. In addition, he tells Zagan that the collar is trapped, which means trying to take it off by force will only lead to the girl losing her head. The man says the only way to get the collar off is by using the key. Thinking about this, Zagan assumes that the key will be somewhere inside Marcosia's castle. As Zagan is about to leave, he drops some coins as payment, but the smith says he doesn't need this. He explains to Zagan that he once saved him before, and this was about a year ago. He and his daughter were getting attacked, and Zagan came to their rescue. They were too scared to thank Zagan and ended up running away. This is the reason he cannot accept the payment. Zagan doesn't really count this as something, but since the man insists that he is not going to get paid, he takes the money and starts to leave. The man lets him know that he is never going to forget the favor. Zagan starts to wonder what is happening and why people are all acting nice toward him. He assumes that this is because of the fact that he is walking with Nephi. Since it is getting late already, Zagan realizes that Nephi must be tired, and it will be inconsiderate of him to ask her to cook. Because of this, they decide to stop at a restaurant and get something to eat. Once they sit down to eat, Nephi asks Zagan if he is not scared that she is going to run away once the collar is removed, and Zagan realizes that this is a possibility, but doesn't really think much about it. He then opens his mouth to tell Nephi that he has no plans of removing it at the moment, messing things up for himself yet again. It is time to eat, but Zagan gets the idea that Nephi might not know how to use the fork and knife. This is because she has never been served a good meal like this before. Zagan realizes why he fell for Nephi even though it was the first time he saw her. This is because he was once like her when he didn't have power. Zagan then tells her to eat the meal in whatever way that she can. Nephi prays over the food before she proceeds to take the fork. She tries using the fork to pick the tomato, but this doesn't work out. She doesn't bother stressing herself, and she just picks up her spoon and uses this instead of a fork. She munches on it, and Zagan asks her how it tastes. She confesses that it tastes delicious and juicy. It is time for Zagan to pick the tomato with his fork, but the tomato dances around the plate, making fun of him just like it did to Nephi. Nephi then picks one of her tomatoes and feeds it to Zagan. Zagan's face turns red from this, and this is when Nephi points out that Zagan has never given her orders. She then asks him if she is free to do as she wishes, and Zagan says yes. In return, Zagan gives her one of his tomatoes too. The two are acting really weird, and this makes the people present inside the restaurant giggle. The two finish eating and head out of the restaurant hurriedly. Later on, the angelic knight captain, Shastil Lilkvis, is seen pondering over what happened to her. She is able to figure out that Zagan was the one who saved his life, even though he had a cruel look on his face. Just then, Lord Clavwell shows up to pass along a piece of important information. The man says Zagan is responsible for the kidnappings that have been happening of late. Shastil finds it hard to believe this, but knows she cannot go against the will of the Lord and the Church. She then volunteers to bring Zagan to justice, and Clavwell appreciates her for this. He says she will be left alone to deal with Zagan, and he calls out her name in a very authoritative way to show how important Shastil is.